He woke up every morning before the sun rose. The small room was quiet except for his breathing. He sat on the edge of the bed and waited for the day to begin. His life followed the same path every day. Work, food, rest, sleep. He never complained, but inside him lived many thoughts. He carried memories like stones in his chest. Heavy and silent, he lived in a modest area where people knew each other by face, not by name. He believed this made life easier. No expectations, no questions, just greetings. And moving on, he worked long hours with his hands, fixing and building things for others. His work kept him busy and his mind focused, yet when the day ended and night arrived, his thoughts became louder. Not far from where he lived, she spent her days. Caring for others, she helped in a small place where people came with worries and pain. She listened more than she spoke. Many felt comfort after talking to her. She never thought of herself as special. She believed kindness was something everyone could offer if they tried. Her life was also simple. She woke early, prepared her day, and stepped out with calm steps. She carried herself with quiet strength. She had known loss and disappointment, yet she did not let it turn her bitter. Instead, it made her softer, more understanding. She believed that every person carried a story, even if they never spoke it aloud. Their first meeting happened without planning. On a slow afternoon, he stopped by the place where she worked he needed help with. A small matter. He expected a quick visit and a fast return to his routine. But when she looked up and met his eyes, something paused inside him. It was not love or attraction, it was recognition, like seeing something familiar without knowing why. She noticed his hesitation, the way he stood unsure. She spoke gently and guided him through what he needed. Her voice was calm, not rushed. He listened carefully, grateful for her patience. When the task was done, he thanked her and turned to leave, yet something held him there for a moment longer. She smiled politely, not the kind meant to impress, just the kind that came naturally. He nodded and stepped outside. The air felt different, lighter. He walked home thinking about nothing specific, yet feeling a strange warmth that stayed with him. Days passed and life returned to its rhythm. Yet he found himself thinking of that brief meeting during quiet moments. He wondered why such a small interaction stayed with him. He dismissed it as tired thoughts and focused on his work. Meanwhile, she continued her days as usual, helping, listening, caring. She too remembered the man who had visited, not because he stood out in looks or words, but because of the calm silence he carried. It felt familiar, like a shared understanding without conversation. Their paths crossed again by chance at a nearby place, where people gathered for daily needs. This time, they recognized each other immediately. She greeted him warmly. He responded with a smile that surprised even him. They spoke briefly about simple things, the weather, the day, the work around them. It was easy, natural. He felt no pressure to impress. No need to pretend. She felt the same. They parted with a quiet comfort, neither realizing how meaningful these small moments would become. Over the next weeks, these chance meetings continued. Sometimes they spoke, sometimes they only shared a nod, yet each interaction added something unseen but strong. A sense of safety, a quiet joy. He began to notice details around him, more the sky at dusk, the sound of footsteps, the warmth of sunlight. He did not know why his world felt fuller. He only knew something had shifted. She felt a gentle change. Her days felt lighter. Even during difficult moments, she found herself calmer. She wondered if this was simply growth or something more she did not rush to label it. One evening, he sat alone reflecting on his life. He realized how long he had lived without sharing his thoughts with anyone. He had grown used to carrying everything alone. The idea of opening up felt unfamiliar, yet not frightening anymore. At the same time, she sat writing her thoughts as she often did. She wrote about connection and how sometimes people meet at the right moment without knowing it. She paused, feeling that these words held more meaning than usual. Their lives continued side by side, slowly moving closer without force or expectation. Neither knew where this path would lead, yet something gentle had begun, something real and quiet, the kind that grows not in grand moments but in simple, shared presence. The first part of their story was not about love. It was about two lives recognizing each other in silence, and that recognition was the seed that would change everything. Days continued to move forward quietly, yet something between them had changed. They did not speak about it, but both felt it. The simple meetings now carried a soft expectation, not pressure, just awareness. He began to notice the time more closely. He knew when she would pass by. He told himself it was coincidence. Still, his steps slowed when he sensed she might appear. When she did, his chest felt warm and calm at the same time. She noticed it too. She found herself looking ahead while walking, hoping to see him. Even when she told herself not to think about it, her heart did not listen. She felt comfort in his presence, even without words. One afternoon they stood near each other longer than usual. Silence filled the space, but it was not awkward. It felt full, like a conversation without sound. He finally spoke, asking about her day. His voice was steady, but carried care. She answered honestly, sharing small moments from her work, the tired faces, the grateful smiles. He listened closely, not interrupting. She felt heard in a way she had not felt in a long time. He shared a little too about his work, how his hands stayed busy even when his mind felt heavy. He did not share everything, but it was more than he usually offered anyone. She understood and did not push for more. As days passed, these conversations grew slightly longer. They talked about simple things, morning routines, evening quiet food memories, childhood places, nothing deep yet, everything meaningful. Both carried past experiences that had taught them caution. He had learned to rely only on himself. She had learned that giving too much could leave her empty. They moved slowly, respecting invisible boundaries. One evening, rain fell softly as they walked in the same direction. They shared the shelter of a small covered space. Neither mentioned the rain stopping. They stayed there longer than needed, talking quietly, listening carefully. In that moment they both felt something clear. This connection was not loud or fast. It was steady and gentle. It asked for patience, not promises. After that evening they did not meet for a few days. Life became busy again. He felt the absence strongly. He realized how much those simple moments mattered to him. She felt it too, noticing the quiet space where his presence had been. When they finally met again, there was relief in their eyes. No words were needed to explain it. They smiled and continued walking together for a short while. She spoke about her fears carefully, how she sometimes worried about the future. He listened without judgment. He did not try to fix anything. He simply stayed present, shared something deeper than before, how loneliness had become familiar to him, how he had learned to accept it. She listened with compassion, not pity. She understood that silence could be heavy. That day marked a shift. They did not call it anything, but they both knew something important was growing: trust. They did not meet every day yet. Whenever they did, the connection felt stronger, not through intensity, but through consistency. People around them remained unaware this was their quiet space, untouched by opinions or expectations. Nights passed. Both found themselves reflecting more, thinking about choices and hopes. They did not imagine a future together yet, but they imagined feeling this peace for a long time. The second part of their story was about closeness built through patience, about two people learning to share space without fear, and that closeness prepared them for what life would soon test. Life rarely stays gentle for long. Just as their connection felt steady, the world around them began to press harder. Both carried responsibilities that could not be ignored. He was asked to take on more work, long hours, heavier tasks, less time to rest. His body grew tired, and his mind followed. He still thought of her often, but energy slipped away by the end of each day. She faced changes as well. A shift in her work brought more pressure, more people, more pain, more listening. She gave her care freely, but inside she felt stretched thin. Their meetings became less frequent. At first they understood life happens. They trusted the quiet bond they had built. Yet as days passed, the distance began to feel different. He wondered if he had become less important to her. She wondered if she was asking too much by hoping for his presence. One afternoon they crossed paths unexpectedly. There was relief at first, but something felt off. Their smiles were softer, their words fewer. Both sensed the weight the other carried, but neither knew how to step closer. Wanted to speak about what he felt, but the words stayed locked inside. He feared sounding weak or demanding. She wanted to ask if everything was still the same, but fear of pressure held her back. They parted that day with unfinished thoughts. Following days passed without meeting. Silence settled slowly, not dramatic, just heavy. He noticed the silence most at night after long days. He sat alone with his thoughts, The calm he once felt now felt empty. He realized how much she had become part of his sense of balance. She felt it during her quiet moments when no one needed her. When the room finally rested, she questioned whether she had imagined the closeness. She reminded herself not to cling to something undefined. Weeks passed this way. Distance grew not from anger but from uncertainty. Each carried quiet pain. Neither blamed the other, yet both felt the loss. One evening he saw her from afar. She was speaking with someone else, laughing softly. The sight stirred something inside him, not jealousy, but fear. Fear of being replaced, fear of missing his chance, she noticed. Him too. Their eyes met briefly. The moment held many emotions: regret, longing, confusion. They did not approach each other. That distance hurt more than words could that night. Neither slept well. Thoughts circled endlessly. He admitted to himself that what he felt was deeper than comfort. It was care, real and sincere. She admitted that she missed him more than she wanted to accept. The next days brought reflection. He thought about his habit of retreating when life became heavy. He realized that silence had protected him before, but now it was hurting him. She reflected on her habit of giving space even when her heart wanted closeness. She realized that patience without honesty could create walls. Both stood at a quiet turning point, unaware of each other's thoughts, yet guided by the same truth. Something meaningful was at risk. Life moved on with quiet insistence. Both of them carried their days as before, yet the past weeks of distance had left marks. They both knew that if nothing changed, the bond they had built could fade. One morning they found themselves at the same place unexpectedly. Their eyes met, and the hesitation that had filled days vanished slowly. The relief was mutual. Not spoken, but understood. He spoke first, softly mentioning that he had missed their talks. She admitted she had noticed the distance too, and had worried. Both laughed lightly at the awkwardness that came with honesty. They walked slowly together this time. Words flowed easier. It's not about heavy matters, but about life's small joys and the quiet pains that still existed. They acknowledged the challenges without letting them dominate. He shared some of the burdens he had carried silently. She listened patiently, offering support without judgment. Her presence itself felt like a gift. She shared the small fears that had haunted her during the quiet weeks. He did not try to solve anything. He simply stayed close, giving her courage through understanding. For the first time they realized that closeness was not only about physical presence, but about emotional honesty. The more they shared, the more trust grew. They began to act on care rather than just words. He helped her with small tasks. She noticed the effort and felt warmth, not from the action, but from the intent. She returned gestures quietly. The days continued with more deliberate interaction. They checked in with small messages, shared glimpses of their day. Sometimes they met without purpose, yet every moment felt meaningful. Family and friends noticed subtle changes in their demeanor, noticing quiet happiness, not asking questions, not needing answers. They learned to balance personal life with this growing bond. He respected her space. She respected his routines. Neither rushed nor forced the connection. One evening they sat by a small quiet spot, watching the sun fall behind distant hills. They did not speak for long, but the silence felt full. Not lonely, but shared. They both knew that this was a new beginning. They promised nothing in words, but in actions. They began to see each other as steady parts of daily life, not just fleeting moments. The connection grew not in drama, but in the simple act of showing up for each other. Small challenges came and they faced them together. Support without blame, comfort without expectation. The bond became resilient through gentle patience. He realized that he no longer feared revealing weakness. She realized that seeking support did not make her less capable. They both grew quietly in strength and understanding. Fourth part of their story was about acceptance, about choosing each other without demanding perfection, about love built through care, attention, and presence rather than grand gestures. They found that true connection is measured by consistency and heart, and they both stepped into this understanding together. Time passed gently. Their bond grew stronger, not through grand events, but through daily life. Through shared moments and quiet understanding, they became part of each other's world without needing to define it fully. They woke to mornings with a sense of ease. Knowing the other existed in their thoughts, they found joy in small things, a shared smile. A message to ask if the day went well, a brief conversation that left warmth in the chest. They faced challenges, as life always brings difficulties at work, worries about family, moments of illness. Both supported each other without judgment. Their care was steady and patient. It never shouted or demanded attention, but it was always there. In the quiet nights, they talked about dreams and past fears. They shared hopes cautiously, not wanting to burden, yet wanting connection. He spoke about times he felt alone and how her presence had changed that. She spoke about moments of doubt and how his care had given her courage. They learned to celebrate victories, both small and large. Together they walked through streets, sharing laughter over tiny pleasures. They carried each other's burdens lightly, and without complaint their bond deepened. Without dramatic gestures or sudden declarations, they learned the power of presence. Even when apart, messages were sent quietly to remind each other they existed in the same world. Their lives intertwined through patience, understanding, and trust. They became essential to each other's peace. Friends and family began to notice the calm glow around them. They did not need to explain. The way they moved together, the way their steps matched in rhythm, was proof enough of connection. Not needing labels or loud announcements, here's moved forward. They continued routines and responsibilities. Yet their hearts carried a constant undercurrent of care. Each action, small or large, was touched by awareness of the other. They grew together, learning from mistakes, supporting each other's growth. They traveled short distances, enjoying new places together, seeing sunsets, walking through markets, sharing food. They found delight in the ordinary because they shared it. Their happiness was quiet but deep. They faced serious life moments, to losses that could have shaken them. But together they held on, not out of obligation, but because they wanted to keep holding each other in the storm, not needing to speak every fear or every sorrow through all this. They learned that love was not in grand confessions, but in steady presence, in patience, in choosing each other again and again. Even when life was hard, they found that true love is quiet, enduring, and full of heart. Their story became one of simple faith and connection, of human care, and of choosing each other through everyday life. They had no need for applause or recognition. Their bond spoke silently in every gesture, every glance, every thoughtful act. In the end, they reflected on how far they had come, not in dramatic stories, but in moments of consistency in shared life. They smiled, knowing that this love was built on understanding, patience, and presence, and it would stay with them always. The fifth part of their story was about lasting love, about life shared without rush, about hearts that learned to give and receive quietly. Their story remained in the gentle gestures, the calm support, the shared silences, proving that real love is steady, enduring, and unforgettable. Living after years together, their connection continued to grow, not in sudden events, but in daily life. The ordinary became extraordinary because they shared it. Their mornings and evenings were small celebrations of presence and understanding. They began to notice the subtle changes in each other, the way a tired smile could still carry warmth, the way a brief touch brought comfort. They learned to read the unspoken words and the quiet signals that spoke louder than language. Challenges arrived as always. Life was not gentle. They faced health worries, work pressures, and moments of doubt. Yet they held each other, not through grand declarations, but through simple support. They showed up even when the day had been heavy and the heart had been tired. They created traditions of small acts that mattered: a shared cup of tea in the morning, a walk before sunset, sending a message to show care. These gestures built layers of trust and closeness over time. They realized that love is often in the rhythm of everyday life. In moments of silence, they found strength. They could sit together without speaking, yet feel fully connected. They understood that not every feeling needed words to be real. Their bond deepened because they accepted both presence and absence with grace. They learned patience in ways that mattered deeply: patience with each other's habits, with each other's moods, with the way life unfolded unpredictably. They realized that giving space did not weaken love, but made it resilient. They became each other's anchor without constraining each other. They celebrated each other's successes with genuine joy. Small victories and big accomplishments were shared with pride. They learned to rejoice in happiness without envy, and to comfort in sorrow without judgment. Their hearts grew stronger through shared experiences. They traveled together, exploring places close and far. They noticed the small things, the sounds, the smells, the faces around them. They took delight in shared observations and quiet laughter there. Joy was in seeing life together rather than seeking excitement from the world alone. Difficult days reminded them of the fragility of life. Moments of illness or stress brought them closer. They held hands through pain. They listened without offering solutions, unless asked. They discovered that being fully present in hardship was the most profound act of love. They reflected on their journey often, thinking about the quiet beginnings, the slow growth, the patient nurturing of feelings. They marveled at how far they had come, not through dramatic moments, but through consistent care. They realized that their story was rare in its steadiness and depth. Friends and neighbors noticed a calm happiness around them. They did not need to explain. They moved through life with quiet grace. Their bond was evident in the way they supported each other, silently yet unmistakably. They learned that love could be a choice every day. A choice to show kindness, a choice to listen, a choice to remain patient, a choice to care without expectation. They realized that these choices formed a deep and lasting connection that could withstand trials. Through all the years, they discovered that the essence of love was in simple acts, steady presence, and emotionally honesty. They understood that hearts that give and receive gently build a connection that time cannot erode. Their story became one of enduring tenderness, a life built on trust, patience, and the joy of shared existence. They knew that the love they nurtured in ordinary moments would stay with them forever. The sixth part of their story was about continuing growth, about learning and giving without demand, and about the quiet beauty of love that lasts through everyday life. Life continued to unfold gently between them each day, carried familiar routines, but the bond they shared grew stronger in the quiet ways that mattered most. They rose in the mornings together or apart, but always with the other. In thought, they found joy in the simplest interactions: a glance across a room, a smile at a small gesture, a message to check in when distance kept them apart. They noticed the subtle nuances in each other's lives, the way exhaustion made a smile fade slightly, the way a shared memory could bring light to a heavy moment. They learned to read each other's needs without asking. They gave support without intrusion and care without expectation. This created a sense of safety that became the foundation of their love. Challenges arrived as they always do, but they faced them differently. Each problem, each worry, each moment of uncertainty was met together. They did not need dramatic words or grand gestures. Their presence and quiet understanding was enough. They discovered that being steady for one another mattered more than solving every problem at once. They began to cherish routines that had once seemed mundane. The morning cup of tea shared on a balcony, the walks in the quiet park in the late afternoon, the way their hands brushed when passing objects or opening doors. They realized that love often lived in these small, repeated actions, and that the consistency of these moments built something lasting and profound. They learned to navigate disagreements with care, understanding that silence or patience sometimes served more than heated words. They learned to speak only when necessary, to communicate feelings without blame or judgment. They discovered that respect, attentiveness, could carry more weight than any speech. Evenings were often spent quietly sharing thoughts that had accumulated over the day. They recounted small stories of interactions with others, the people they had met, the things they had observed. These moments of sharing did more than pass time. They built connection and trust. They gave insight into each other's inner worlds and allowed them to support each other in ways words alone could not. They explored life together in new ways. They traveled short distances and sometimes longer trips. They marveled at simple landscapes and took delight in small discoveries. They photographed small moments and shared these experiences with joy, not to impress, but to remember that life was sweeter when experienced together. Through the years, they faced periods of worry and uncertainty, health concerns, family struggles, financial stress, yet they leaned on each other. Each provided comfort and reassurance without overwhelming the other. They learned that strength was not about facing life alone, but about sharing the load and giving support in quiet, consistent ways. They found meaning in shared silence. Sometimes they would sit together without words. The only sounds were from the world around them, the wind rustling leaves, the distant sounds of traffic. The quiet breathing of the other, these moments brought peace and understanding. They realized that love did not always need expression, sometimes it needed presence. They celebrated achievements together, not with grand parties, but with quiet acknowledgement. Each milestone, each small victory, was met with genuine happiness for the other. They realized that joy multiplied when shared, and that pride in each other's accomplishments strengthened their bond. They reflected often on the early days of their connection, the gentle meetings, the first conversations, the long silences that had felt so full. They marveled at how far they had come, not through dramatic events, but through steady care. They felt gratitude for the slow unfolding of their story, and recognized the beauty in the gradual building of trust and love. Even when apart, they felt each other's presence. They would send small notes or messages, checking in. Their hearts carried an invisible thread that kept them connected. They realized that love was not just in the time spent together, but in the awareness that the other existed and cared. They found joy in teaching and learning from one another. The skills they shared, the experiences they exchanged, each offered something to the other without expectation. Their relationship became a space for growth, for both personal and shared development. They supported each other in pursuing passions and exploring interests. Their friends and neighbors noticed a calm happiness about them. The way they moved together without haste, the quiet respect and attentiveness. They did not need to explain or showcase anything. Their lives and interactions naturally revealed the depth of their connection. They continued to face difficult times together, sometimes with tears, sometimes with quiet determination. They learned that vulnerability could be a source of strength when met with care and understanding. They discovered that honesty in expressing fear or doubt built trust more than keeping everything hidden. They celebrated anniversaries not with extravagance, but with quiet reflection on the years shared. They remembered moments that had defined their journey, the first shared smile, the small act of kindness that had lingered in memory, the times they had relied on each other and discovered the depth of their bond through the years. They understood that love was a choice every day, a choice to be patient, a choice to care, a choice to listen, a choice to be present without expecting perfection. They realized that these choices were the true foundation of enduring love, and that consistent, gentle attention created a life that was deeply fulfilling. They explored the beauty of ordinary life. Together, they found magic in the mundane, the breakfast prepared for each other, the gentle conversation at the end of a long day, the quiet walks hand in hand through familiar streets. They recognized that shared life could be the most profound adventure, and that love thrived in continuity rather than spectacle. They offered kindness to others as a reflection of the love they nurtured. They shared care not only between themselves, but with the community around them. Acts of generosity and attention to others became an extension of the understanding they had built and reinforced the sense of purpose and shared humanities. They grew older. They reflected on the journey they had taken. They remembered the initial hesitations, the slow building of trust, the careful nurturing of feelings. They recognized that the most beautiful love is rarely loud. It is quiet, steady, and often invisible to the outside world, yet its presence can transform life in profound ways. They continued to find strength in each other, even as life brought new challenges. Sometimes health concerns or fatigue made small tasks difficult. Yet they adapted together. They shared the burdens without complaint and discovered joy in the cooperation. In mutual respect, they valued each other's individuality while remaining deeply connected. They encouraged growth and independence, yet never felt distance as a threat. Their relationship became a model of balance and mutual support, demonstrating that love could grow stronger when built on respect, care, and understanding. Their story became one of enduring tenderness and calm resilience. They experienced the fullness of life together, not through dramatic events, but through consistency, shared presence, and heartfelt support. Their love had grown into a quiet force that sustained them in both joy and hardship. In ordinary routines, they found meaning. Each meal prepared together, each conversation shared, each moment of attentiveness reinforced their connection. They realized that the extraordinary was hidden in the ordinary, and that life shared in this way created a story worth remembering. They found comfort in knowing that they were each other's constant in a world that was always changing. They understood that love does not always require grand gestures, but thrives in the daily choices made to care, understand, and be present. They celebrated this understanding in their actions, and their shared moments. Their story became a testament to patient love, steady commitment, and the quiet beauty of choosing each other again and again. Through years of life and shared experiences, they demonstrated that real love is not always visible, but is deeply felt, and enduring it remains. Alive through attention, thoughtfulness, and care. Seventh part of their story was about deepening trust, ongoing support, and the beauty of life shared quietly. It was about growing together, learning together, and being present together. It showed that love is an ongoing process that requires attention, heart, and patience, and that its power lies in the small, consistent actions that build a life. Together, life continued to flow gently between them each day, brought familiar routines, yet the depth of their connection grew steadily. They rose in the morning, knowing the other existed in thought and presence. They found joy in the smallest gestures. A glance, a smile, a message to check on each other. Even when apart, they became attuned to each other's moods and needs. Without words, they could sense when support was needed or when silence was better. They learned to respond with care, not expectation. Their understanding deepened because they listened and observed with patience and attention. Challenges came, as they always do. Work pressures, family worries, health concerns. Yet they faced everything together. They discovered that love was not in grand statements, but in the simple acts of showing up, listening, offering comfort. Standing together, even when the day was heavy, they created traditions of small acts. A shared cup of tea in the morning, a walk in the evening, messages that showed thoughtfulness. These routines became the backbone of their connection. The repetition of care became a language of its own. They embraced the power of shared silence, sometimes sitting together without speaking, yet feeling completely connected. They realized that love often lives in presence and attention rather than constant conversation. Words were not always needed to feel understood. They learned patience in new ways. Patience with habits, patience with moods, patience with the unpredictability of life. They discovered that giving space strengthened their bond rather than weakened it. They became anchors for each other without constraining freedom. They celebrated successes quietly yet fully. The small victories and large achievements were acknowledged with genuine joy. Each milestone was meaningful because it was shared. Understood that happiness grows when it is experienced together. They traveled together, discovering both familiar and new places. They found beauty in small details, in sounds, sights, and textures. They shared laughter over tiny observations and took pleasure in exploring the world side by side. Each experience strengthened the connection they nurtured over time. They faced difficult times, to moments of illness, moments of doubt, or unexpected stress, yet they remained together. They held hands. They offered quiet support. They listened without rushing solutions. They learned that being fully present in hardship was a profound act of love. They reflected on their journey, often thinking about the first gentle meetings, the slow building of trust, the careful nurturing of feelings. They appreciated how far they had come, not through drama, but through consistent, gentle care. They saw the beauty in the steady unfolding of their bond. Even when apart, they remained connected. Small messages, notes checking in their hearts carried an invisible thread that kept them present to one another. They realized love exists not only in shared time, but in awareness of each other's presence. They shared knowledge and skills. They taught each other new things. They encouraged growth and pursued interests. Together, they found that love could inspire learning and exploration. They supported each other in endeavors and celebrated personal development. Friends noticed the calm happiness around them, the way they moved together with ease, the quiet respect and attentiveness. Their bond was visible not through showy gestures, but through steadiness and consistency. They inspired through example the power of gentle love. They experienced vulnerability and trust. They were open with fears, doubts, insecurities. Each time this was met with care, their connection strengthened. They discovered that honesty and expressing weakness built intimacy and trust more than hiding struggles. and anniversaries were quiet. Moments of reflection, they remembered first meetings, small gestures, and subtle signs that had defined their journey. They celebrated the endurance of connection over time, recognizing that true love is measured in patience and steady care. They found joy in ordinary routines, breakfast together conversations at the end of long days, evening walks. They realized the extraordinary could be found in the ordinary. When life was shared with understanding and affection, the adventure of life was in shared presence rather than spectacle. They practiced kindness beyond their relationship, helping others, sharing care and attention. Their love inspired generosity. They discovered that nurturing connection extended naturally outward and reinforced their own sense of purpose and belonging. As they grew older, they reflected on their lives together, the initial hesitations, the slow building of trust, the patient cultivation of feelings. They recognized that beautiful love is quiet, consistent, and deep. It does not need loud affirmation to exist fully. Even in ordinary routines, they found richness: the morning tea, the gentle conversation, the quiet walk hand in hand. They understood that love grows through repetition of care in everyday life, and that lasting connection comes from steady attention. They became constants in each other's lives, a calm presence in an ever-changing world. They knew that love is an ongoing choice, a choice to be patient, a choice to listen, a choice to support, and remain present. They embraced this understanding fully. Their story exemplified steady love, enduring care, and quiet resilience. They found fulfillment not in grand events, but in the rhythm of daily life and the consistent, gentle acts that built their shared existence. They discovered that love thrives through attention and patience rather than spectacle. Even ordinary actions became extraordinary. Each gesture carried thoughtfulness and understanding. Each moment together strengthened the invisible bond. They understood that their shared life was a rare treasure built slowly and carefully. Their love remained deeply felt even when unseen. They understood that endurance and consistency are the marks of real love. They chose each other daily and demonstrated that the essence of connection is not in dramatic displays, but in steady, supportive presence. The eighth part of their story was about the deepening of commitment, ongoing growth, and the quiet beauty of choosing each other. Day after day, it celebrated the ordinary, extraordinary, and the enduring power of patient love. It showed that the most profound connections grow not through spectacle, but through gentle attention and shared life, and that such love truly stays. With the heart forever, the mornings continued to arrive with gentle light and quiet presence. Each day was met with a sense of continuity, as both of them carried the awareness of the other into every action. Their connection had grown over years, not through dramatic events, but through patient attention and shared life. They noticed the subtle ways they influenced each other. The way a small smile could lift a heavy moment, the way simple acts of care transformed ordinary days into something meaningful. They had learned to anticipate needs without asking, and to provide comfort without intrusion. Life continued to bring challenges: work, obligations, family concerns, health worries. They faced each moment together, offering support and presence, not with words, but through steady action. Through the years, they discovered that love is often quiet, inconsistent rather than loud and demanding. They established routines that became meaningful anchors: each morning tea, each evening walk, each message sent across the day to acknowledge presence. These small, repeated acts became a language of care and connection that needed no elaboration. They found richness in continuity and consistency. They explored the world together, sometimes near, sometimes far. They delighted in small details: the sound of the river, the smell of fresh bread, the sight of children playing. Their shared observations brought joy and laughter. They realized that happiness is amplified when experienced together. They learned patience in deeper ways: patience with moods, patience with habits, patience with the unpredictability of life. This patience was not passive but active. Caring it allowed them to remain steady anchors for each other even in times of uncertainty. They understood that space and understanding could strengthen bonds. They faced difficult moments, health concerns, and emotional lows, yet they did not retreat. They held hands, offered reassurance, and listened fully. They learned that presence in hardship is a profound act of love and builds trust, and resilience. Their conversations deepened as they reflected on life hopes and fears. They shared past experiences and childhood memories. They explored dreams cautiously, not imposing pressure, but sharing honestly. Their communication strengthened intimacy and understanding and fostered a sense of deep mutual respect. They continued to celebrate small achievements together. Each milestone, each victory, was shared with genuine happiness. They realized that shared joy strengthened bonds more than individual accomplishments alone. They supported each other in pursuing ambitions and offered encouragement freely. They took time to notice small gestures and signals they could feel concern, worry, or excitement. In subtle expressions, they responded with understanding. They realized that love was often in the details and the attention given to the small moments that might otherwise be overlooked. They embraced silence as a form of connection. Sitting together without speaking, yet feeling deeply linked, they understood that love does not always require words. Presence and awareness could communicate more than conversation. They learned to value these quiet connections as profoundly as spoken exchanges. They reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The gentle meetings, the early conversations, the slow nurturing of trust. They understood that the strength of their bond came not from drama, but from consistent care and attention. They felt gratitude for the patience and steadiness that had defined their story. Even in separation, they maintained connections. Small notes, messages, and thoughts carried across distance. Their hearts remained linked. They discovered that love exists not only in shared time, but also in the awareness of the other, and the commitment to be present in spirit. They shared knowledge and skills, learning from each other. They encouraged growth, explored new interests, and supported ambitions. Connection and creates new depth in the relationship. Friends and neighbors noticed the calm happiness that surrounded them, the steady respect, the gentle attentiveness, the mutual care they did not need to explain. Their lives demonstrated the power of quiet, loving connection, and the impact of steady presence. Vulnerability became a source of strength. They shared fears, doubts, and insecurities without shame, and discovered that openness created deeper intimacy and trust. They realized that honesty about weakness was a building block of enduring love. Anniversaries were celebrated with reflection on the years shared. They remembered the first gestures, the small signs that marked the beginning of connection. They acknowledged the endurance of their bond and recognized that true love is nurtured by patience, consistency, and shared experience. They found delight in ordinary life, meals prepared together, conversations at the end of a long day, walks in familiar streets. They understood that extraordinary moments often emerge from ordinary life when shared with understanding, attention, and love. The adventure of life was in the shared experience. Acts of kindness extended beyond their relationship. Their care and attentiveness inspired generosity. Toward others, they discovered that nurturing connection and providing support extended naturally and reinforced the sense of purpose and belonging in their own lives. As they grew older, they reflected on all that they had shared. The slow beginning, the patient growth, the careful nurturing of feelings. They recognized that real love is quiet, deep, and consistent. It does not need to be celebrated loudly to be profound and enduring every day. Routines became meaningful rituals. The morning tea, the evening conversation, the gentle touch hand in hand. These repeated actions strengthened their bond. They understood that consistency and small acts of care is the foundation of enduring connection. They became constants in each other's lives, anchors in a changing world. They knew that love requires daily choice to listen, choice to support, choice to be present. They embraced this choice fully, finding profound satisfaction and fulfillment in its repetition. Story became a testament to gentle, enduring love. It demonstrated how steady care and attention create deep connection, how daily acts of support and understanding build a life together, how true love thrives, not in spectacle, but in patience, attentiveness, and shared life. Evan. Ordinary acts took on extraordinary meaning. Each gesture, each moment reinforced their bond. They appreciated the treasure of their shared life, built carefully and consistently over years. Their love remained deeply felt and profoundly grounding. They understood that endurance, consistency, and thoughtful attention are The hallmarks of real love, they chose each other again and again, demonstrating that genuine connection is created through daily actions and continuous care. They found fulfillment in the shared journey and in the quiet constancy of their bond. The ninth part of their story was about sustaining love through attention, reflection, and care. It showed the beauty of patient, consistent connection. It demonstrated that love grows through ongoing choice and daily shared life, and that such love remains in the heart forever.